Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Syncretism Virtual Academy. My name is Christopher Campbell, and this is going to be a continuation of your last lesson. Last time we talked about Alvin Boyd Kuhn and secret keys of the scriptures, allowing us to understand how the soul of eternal light was encased in the tomb of matter and limited. On the board here, we have some illustrations that are going to help us understand how and why we are encapsulated in the tomb of matter, and some practical ways we can get out of it, as well as some correlations with the elements, the sine wave, the human body, the musical scale, and how we can use this, combine it, and see how the spirit is actually, naturally inside of matter, and use it as a project to help understand and know itself, and to understand its elemental, impersonal, effulgent nature, because the elements and the material nature are the effulgence of the personal nature of the monad. So once the spirit is entombed in matter, experiences its spiritual death is entombed in matter, it is then to what we say crossed or cubed or hexed or crucified. And as we can see, the human body is the same shape as the cross and the cube. So I'm going to start off with some inspiration. We'll go to page 55, Alvin Boyd Kuhn, Lost Keys to the Scriptures. And it says, for the soul in its descent or involution, abandoned its life of spiritual blissfulness in purely subjective states, and comes by successive stages. The successive, so it says it lives in its personal, beautiful, peaceful abode, and then the soul projects itself down into this, becomes more dense, from spirit to fire to air to water to finally earth. Our bodies are made up of water, earth. So as its descent from this blissful realm, it gets more dense, and it goes down and acquires the 7 qualities of the 7 planets that we talked about in the last lesson. So these are conditions. And when this command comes home to the soul above and draws it into its downward plunge, as all archaic writings agree, sin springs to life, and the soul marches on down the Jacob's ladder to enter the cycle of its death, burial, and resurrection in the earthly body. For the soul in its descent or evolution abandons its life of the spiritual blissfulness in purely subjective states, and comes by successive stages closer to the flesh, which through its sinful cravings excited by the law of carnal consciousness will blot out its memory of diviner motions of the spirit and overwhelm it with the coarser motivations of sense life. Now, these are some of the more polarized negative qualities we acquire from the material nature, and they also correspond to the 7 planets, and we'll talk about them in a future lesson. Right now, we've talked about the qualities that are bestowed by the archangels and the rays. So the divine command, which meant a new chance at life and life more abundant than ever achievable by the soul before, through the opportunity of the new experience of growth and the mastery of the elements of all the worlds. The command that meant more life proved death into the soul, as Paul says, here is the new. Okay. Here it states that it's notable that the final conclusion is that the descent of the soul of the body is not evil, and that the ages of wretched, mischievous corporate Christianity and churches have led us to believe that the soul's incarnation of material nature is something that is super evil. Now, the soul descended to acquire mastery of the elements. Here, it can choose to descend more. We were never intended to descend farther down than here. This is supposed to be the workshop and the playground. There has been some misusement of it. So here, when the soul descends into matter, it becomes baptized into earth. this earth consciousness mixed with the water, which is our body fluids. The air is the medium that the spirit, the fire will, and the spirit, which is the fifth one, use the air as a medium to interact with earth and water, which is the tomb. So you are hexed to the cross and the cube inside of the human body. And essentially, this makes us matter stupefies spirit, according to Alvin Boy Kuhn. So let's get free. The liberated aspect of the soul that transmutes and is descending from the subtle realms into the realm of matter, the cube. There's a seed that is liberated. This seed this part of us that's liberated is able to master and control, purify the four elements and transmute us from a cube of, like, let's remember the metaphor of the ice cube, to water vapor, to the air, where clouds are formed, and then finally fire, lightning, ether, and then beyond to the unmanifest. So to accomplish the great work, we have to put our material nature under control of the will of the spirit and the higher intellect, the unmanifested part of us. And we do this through the technique of meditation, self-contemplation, physical. We master our earth element through physical exercise, physical exertion. We master our emotional element by analyzing our emotional nature, by asking ourselves, how do we respond emotionally to certain circumstances and why? And what kind of deep emotions should we feel in certain circumstances? Are we numb sometimes? Are we not feeling our full capacity of our emotions? Are we fluid? Are we able to be compatible, to be unfixed? Can we be mutable? Air. Air is our mind, our thoughts. We go from the baptized in earth. When we're birthed into the physical realm, we are said to be in matter, to be encased in the cube. But then something very subtle happens within us on a very natural level. We start to gain our sense of individuality and understand truth that we are not the body. And we understand emotions and love and invisible, mutable things that are not things that are fixed. Like we have emotions and love and compassion, and we have all these beautiful watery qualities. So essentially, when that happens in our life and we transmute our energy and we start walking on the path of the hero, we go from our earth stage of consciousness, which is a little bit dead and forgetful. We forget our divine origins, just like it mentioned in the page. And we're able to be baptized in the water by John the Baptist, which is a wonderful internal archetype. It's astrological as well as an internal archetype within us that comes about and brings upon this next level of consciousness. We'll go into the archetypes at a later time. So on the path, we need to take our earth and transmute it into water, and then transmute that level of consciousness into air. And finally, when the work is complete, the fire comes. And when this fire comes, it means that the energy has raised from earth, water, air into fire. And finally, that fire allows what John the Baptist says, the one who comes after me baptizes not with water, but of the Holy Fire and the Holy Spirit. Meaning that now the fire, the serpentine fire that rises up the canal has finally completed its process and has now activated the internal fire that allows you to have the dominant will over the four elements and no longer be fooled around and tousled around by the four whips of nature that make us continually deceive ourselves, become delusioned, ignorance, faultiness, greed, aggression. These things are our materiality nature, the nature that we have to work on, the project that we've been provided in the workshop of the Creator. So we descend and get those 7 qualities. And with those 7 qualities we talked about in the last lesson with the 7 archangelic rays and the angle rays, the angles of the planetary bodies, or the planetary luminary bodies, the solar luminescent bodies in the firmament. These rays are the qualities that we have that allow us to master the 4 elements so that we can finally take form. So essentially, when our soul descends into matter, there's good reason for it. It's not just like really negative. It's actually taking on all these wonderful qualities in different spectrums and different mixes and forming unlimited individualities that are being born that will encapsulate these qualities of the 7 with a mixture of these 12 influences. With those 7 qualities, we master our elements, and we also activate the 12 intelligences within us. And we will be going extensively into the number 12 and how it relates to the number 13 in the next lessons coming up. We can liberate ourselves through matter, and there will be a video accompanying this that will explain this more in detail, and as well as help us with a practical technique that will help us acknowledge the internal part of us that can activate this process. What am I talking about here is the sun, the spirit, this fire. This is what accomplishes the great work. The soul invictus, the sun, the inner master, the inner Christ, inner Krishna, is what evaporates and takes our ice cube and transmutes it into water and vaporizes it into air. And finally, there's lightning. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am the best weapon, lightning. What better weapon is there than lightning? Because he's the greatest of all things. As we develop these 7 virtues and the 7 angles and work with them on a practical basis, we can understand them in a musical way as well. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and finally do, the silence, the eternal bliss. There will be extensive lessons on how to transmute this essence of spirit that is liberated within the tomb and use it to control these elements and transmute and rise that fire, transmuting from earth, water, air to the higher, more solar realms, and being able to completely be liberated from the material realm while we are still here, not after. After is an effect of our actions here and now. We have to accomplish the great work now. George W. Carey says that we have full capability to transmute and become our highest manifested self and basically resurrect from the tomb here while we're physically embodied, which would perfect the vessels. All the elements would be in perfect control and in very much in order. And we'd be able to express our highest, most unmanifest self through the physical realm. Right now, because we're fixed to the cross of matter and our elements are unstable, we are not able to express fully. So that's why we have to practice raising that essence. And that essence is the sexual energy that manifests as the seed, which you will learn extensively about, which is what purifies this tomb and allows the soul to manifest. So this is practical alchemy. This is a overview so that we can understand the basics and the correlations between the elements, the planets, how it relates to the body, how our soul manifests from the unmanifest subtle realms to become its polarized counterpart, matter. These are some of the things that will help us comprehend what we could do on a day-to-day basis, like we talked about before. In this day and age, we have to utilize the unmanifested realm to activate our soul and our soul intelligence so that we can take action to purify our body. How we will do this essentially is by using the power of music, sound, mantra. These are all invisible sound waves. These waves correlate us directly to the unmanifested realm. So we can practice various kirtans. I really recommend the Eastern teachings because they have a lot of beautiful a beautiful music that is able to activate the heart chakra and the inner invisible part of us. They're called kirtans. They're songs to the prime creator. There's mantras, like syllable mantras, like A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. And each one, starting from the top, would correspond to the 7 centers in each planet. A, E, I, O, U. You can vibrate them accordingly in each center, from the top to the bottom or the bottom of the top. Now, essentially, when you're working with this sound, you're helping attune the part of you that's been encased in the tomb of matter and helping it resonate. Just like when you hit a key on a piano, a C note, certain objects in the room or other instruments, that key will vibrate. That's the law of correspondence. Corresponding, we need to correspond to each gland and understanding that we're connected to the seven rays. Along the path, when we transmute from earth, water, air to bringing on the unmanifested realms to earth, we are doing the alchemical marriage of the sun and the moon. We're purifying our matter with spirit. We elevate ourselves from earth, water, air to fire. And then we speak the truth. We do actions. We take action against injustice. We're balanced in our ways. We show mercy. It takes many mistakes and faults and mess ups on the path because we're entombed. And essentially in this age, no one is at a perfected stage. It's very rare for someone to have their elements completely organized and have these 7 powers in order. So that's why it's so urgent that we all work on ourselves every day, because by improving ourselves every day and doing various techniques to activate our intellects, our emotions, and our physical well-being, we will be able to become more subtle. Just like in the Hermetic text, it says we need to go from subtle to gross. We need to bring the unmanifest to the manifest and be channels for that. Thomas H. Burgoyne says how all of our physical entities here are like antennas, and we are all mediums for the invisible realm. So let's manifest the highest qualities of that here instead of manifesting distortions. On this path, it will be able to understand how the 12 relate to the body and the 7 relate to the glands of the body, and how we can work with them on a fundamental level. If we have to go, step by step to understand the overview of this, so that when we get into the next lessons, we can, go into in more detail. Just have a moment to calm our minds, sit in stillness. Stillness is the line in the sine wave between the opposites. The essence is what notices when we get distracted. The essence is what we can hold to annihilate thoughts. If we pay attention and get wrapped up in certain modes of the material nature, we forget that we are this essence and this witness that is outside of the earth, fire, water, and air. Now, this witness is the eye of God and the eye that God sees through. That eye is imperishable, and within every living entity, we need to ascend to the 3rd level of consciousness and become what is called an airhead. 3rd level of consciousness is earth, water, and finally air. Air is the 3rd level of consciousness. In the Greek system of mysteries, it is known that these 4 elements contain the mysteries of this material manifestation, as well as spiritual counterparts. Each one represents a stage of consciousness. Earth is the consciousness that basically is our mind and enveloped in matter because we have a body. And with this body, we are inside something that is making us act in certain ways and react mechanically. So our earth nature is more of our mechanical nature, our body, our physicality. And that earth, that tomb makes us forget our soul nature. But it's not bad. Matter is actually the split opposite of spirit. Spirit and matter are essentially the same things at different rates. Now, the witness finds itself attached to each one of us. That witness is what we truly are, but we misidentify and feel that we're the body. So in order to get out of earth, we need to ascend to water and finally air. The reason why we need to ascend to the air level of consciousness, which is the mind. This is why in the Bible it says Jesus is in the clouds. You go from John the Baptist saying, hey, we will baptize you with water, but the one that comes after me will baptize you with fire and the Holy Spirit. Because you go from birth into physical realm to becoming baptized into water to ascending to the air level finally. Air is truth. And once you're at this state, you become what is called an airhead, but not in the sense of like a negative. It's more like no thought. You get to take action and live in the moment and not think about the past or the future. We need to ascend to this level so that we can have direct cognizance of the present moment. State of consciousness is above, like I said, past and present. Think as it simply existing in bliss. From moment to moment, identifying with the witness within the physical body. So you're taking yourself out of the four elements into the from earth to water, which earth is dense, water is less dense, and air is less dense than water. And then he says, John the Baptist says, the one that comes after me will baptize you with fire. That is the next level. That's the fourth stage of consciousness. We will talk about that in more in depth. So to abide in the essence and be free, the essence is outside of the three modes of consciousness. We are in the waking state, and then we go to what we call the dream state. And finally, we go to the dreamless unconscious state. Now, in this state, this is where we feel like our consciousness is not there and we don't exist. In the dream state, we have images and things that happen and situations that are reflections of our day-to-day activities in the waking state. And our waking state is a dense, slowed down dream state. We have to comprehend that we are the witness which is outside and exists outside of those states of consciousness. So from abiding the essence, like mantras, Om, or simply self-inquiring, we can abide outside of the elements and finally investigate them and take control and purify them one by one, because the elements seem to be in a state of chaos. And the spirit, or the fifth element, or the witness, which is above the ether, is able to penetrate to these 4, 5 elements, space included, and work with them and control them. But it's like it's kind of like a tussle, kind of like an arm wrestle. So once we identify the witness that sustains our being, we're no longer distracted or attracted to the material modes of nature. This allows us to have a sense of effortless abiding. Throughout the day in the waking state, we can practice self-abiding. And by self-abiding, that means while you're literally walking or driving or teaching or playing an instrument or cooking or doing your duties, to feel and know that you are not the body, you are not the 4 elements, you are the essence behind them. And you can feel it within the middle part of you. I'll go over various simple techniques you can do anytime to have a direct perception of that. Once we go to sleep, we go to the dream realm, and that's a reflection of the waking state. Now, usually we do not have full conscious discrimination in this realm until we apply these methods that you're learning to wake up in the waking state from this moment now. Because as we taught in the first lesson, the soul is entombed in matter and it is in a state of forgetfulness. So the body and mind do things, but the witness does nothing. Indian saints have said that we are not the doer. Christian the Bhagavad Gita says that the solar essence is not slain or the body slain, therefore the witness is always protected. In fact, the part of you that is not embodied is unmanifest and appears to be in the body. This is similar to the allegory of the Christ wrapped in the subtle clothing, or Moses being wrapped in a shell. The soul is encased in the shell of matter. It's put into the baptism of water, which is physical incarnation on one level. There are many levels to the esoteric knowledge. The beautiful mystery teachings that we learn are given to man through various different means on a subtle level, through the mind, through emotions. The teachings appear in stories such as Kabbalistic teachings, Wagner, certain operas and plays, all different kinds of things. And this knowledge comes from the subtle realm. In fact, when the essence projects into the body, it fills the sense of I am. Usually around the age of 3, we get our first sense of I am. And that's when we start going about our activities in the material realm. Sometimes our activities are of goodness. Some kind, they're pleasure seeking, and sometimes they are havoc bringing. But essentially, these modes of nature are outside of, the witness is outside of them, and it's not perturbed by them, but it can get lost, forgotten about, and bottled up. It's unaffected, but it can be drowned out and essentially made so it can be seen clearly. We have our passionate mode, full of desires, which can be transmuted daily through a practice that allows you to quickly get this anxiety energy or this animal instinctual energy that you'll feel accumulating in your solar plexus every single day. Now, generally what humans do is when this energy appears, it's, take off to, let's go to the cinemas. Let's, party, or let's do something that is going to drain us of our energy, such as practicing our sexual nature in the wrong way, expelling all of our sexual energy. By doing this, that energy that we accumulate, that small little instinctual energy that we get every day, will go to waste. But if we were to simply breathe it up, simply that's it. Breathe. Breathe. And when you breathe it up, feel it going from here to all the way up to the top of the spine, all the way like a shepherd's crook into right here into the third eye. Feel that hot instinctual energy. Just one time. Cool it down, bring it to the heart. The shepherd's crook can use that method at any time when you feel like, hey, look, this is not a situation where I'm feeling anxiety or perturbed or the instinctual energy is building. Give it a breathe up, just like a straw. Breathe it up, around, and cool it down. This is alchemy on a daily basis that you can do. We will be adding one method that needs to be combined with that to have maximum effects. And that is simply allowing your gaze to be cast to the horizon in front of you, ever so slightly. Somewhat like going cross-eyed, but without fully going cross-eyed. You should not feel uncomfortable at all. In fact, your back should be straight, eyes slightly to the horizon, kind of like you want to go cross-eyed, but you didn't, all the way. No discomfort. Tongue at the roof of the mouth. Breathe it up. And around. And let the feeling just go away. Let the higher mind process it. Let it go. Boom, it's gone. and continue about your day-to-day activities. Essentially, you can fix this gaze here, abide in the essence. Fix your gaze here, abide in the essence. Tongue at the roof of the mouth. Breathe from the belly up breathe it up. Now we're going to combine one more method, which is the Mona Lisa smile. Slightly smile without smiling. Notice how these things are effortless. The cross-eyed motion with the eyes, very gradual, very centered. The tongue centered. Breathe it up. Smile, Mona Lisa. Now, but just slowly belly breathe. That is how you collapse the wave and go into the beautiful stillness of the dielectricity. And like Mehmet was explaining, the dielectricity, the white and black, stillness and motion, fluctuation. That is where you can abide into it, by focusing here. Manly P. Hall said in Occult Anatomy, man, that's the highest part of the human's body. Right here is where the actual dweller is kind of Bluetoothed into the body right here. When the body focuses on it, the thoughts collapse, no more thoughts. You're able to access more of a still and energy, a magnetic energy rather than electric. So that is how you abide as the witness. Because the major problem in life is to identify with the body. We are spirit souls, fractals of the prime creator. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the witness. Krishna is the witness within us, and our being is sustained by the supreme being, which watches over all creation. Hence the Freemason's eye. This is the all-seeing eye. Because that eye, in the Upanishads, it is said that Brahman and the supreme spirit, or the personal God Krishna, on the eye, has an eye that watches over all creation, has an eye within us that watches us through us individually, and has his own supreme abode where he does his individual activities. We'll be going over that at a later time. But today we just want to talk about abiding in the essence to stop suffering. And once we can learn to abide in the essence and to focus on our being and stop identifying with the body and transmute that instinctual energy, like I said, it's 12 o'clock, you're just chilling and all of a sudden you feel that urge, that lightning right in your solar plexus. What do? Breathe it up, around, cool down, and abide in the essence. Now, eyes here, gaze slightly to the center, like you're going cross-eyed, but not completely, no discomfort. Tongue at the tip, behind the teeth. Back straight. Mona Lisa smile. So that will completely take you from the earth stage of consciousness into the water and into the air of no thought, silence. And this is where you'll receive messages from the 7 angelic rays. The angles of light will be able to penetrate into the body more effectively. Abide in the essence daily. Acknowledge the rays of creation. Acknowledge the creator. Abide in the essence and know that when the body is slain, you're completely still there. You are what you are right now. This is how it would feel, just minus the body, minus the mind. By abiding in the essence, we activate the 12 intelligences of our soul. We blossom the 12 upper brain chakras. And these 12 upper brain chakras are the blossom. It's the lotus flower of the crown chakra. These 12 cranial nerves that correspond to the 12 zodiac are activated by righteous living, and abiding in the essence. Through righteous living, one abides in the essence. Through abiding in the essence, one adopts righteous living. It's a two-way street. Now, we need to incarnate the fourth level of consciousness, which would be fire, but that happens as an effect of actually putting the work in action and serving others and giving knowledge and being the light to others, being a lamp for others, taking your candlestick out and saying, hey, I'm here for others, because others are fractals of the Supreme Self as well. So if we abide in the essence and we take advantage of every day of the week, we will be able to have a clear mind to understand the allegories of the ancient text. And that's when we'll go into each zodiac sign corresponding to the 12 apostles and how they embody those characteristics, and how those characteristics are these beautiful archetypes that exist within us on an astral level. And this astral influence of the 12 mixed with the 7 holy angels or rays helps us blossom and realize ourselves as emanations of the supreme cause that was eternal. Now, we need to abide in the essence, and by self-abiding, we will become more awake in the physical realm here. And this coffin or tomb that I was talking about that the soul is encased in will start to become less dense as we go from earth to water to air through abiding in the essence. We are becoming a sun and transmuting the ice into water, the water into vapor, and the vapor into clouds. We'll bring the lightning later, but we're talking about, a step-by-step process that takes a long time. It could take 3 years to completely have a full alchemical change, or restructuring the elements and purifying them and recombining them is what alchemy is. Essentially, sometimes our activities are material, and sometimes they're transcendental and spiritual, and we have to understand how to bridge the gap and transcend and become spiritualized on a day-to-day basis. So this meditation technique, like I said, just breathe it up, around, focus here, eyes here, tongue here, Mona Lisa smile, and just practice the great work. We'll be talking about how in detail, the alchemical laboratory of the body, and we'll be getting into gods in the brain and how these ancient stories actually appear as glands in the brain in different various ways. As Manly P. Hall said, the ancient Christians were anatomists and ancient biochemists that understood the workings of the human body. Ancient seers and prophets knew that the body was the below of the above, that we were sons and daughters of the prime cause. So it was only a matter of intuition and understanding and knowing, direct knowledge that these things were going to be a pattern within us. So we're going to be definitely diving into some esoteric knowledge that can help you appreciate life and see the beauty in it. Looking forward to talking to you next time. Thank you so much. Have a good night.